Welcome back to my dialogue. Here we are. If you're watching this, it's because either I knocked it out of the park on the first try, or after doing it the first time, I got tired of it. You be the judge of the reason that you're seeing this cut of it, but here we go. Today, I wanted to talk about my favoritist topic, a particular word that probably doesn't come up too often, but it is the primary reason I got into real estate in the first place, and it's a really amazing concept. The word is hypothecation. Hypothecation. Now, I've went ahead and Googled that for you, so you don't need to click away. Here we go on, according to the Wikipedias, is the practice where a debtor pledges collateral to secure a debt or as a condition precedent to the debt, or a third party pledges collateral for the debtor. So what does that mean? You might be asking yourself. Google image that. Some of these images look maybe a little bit more descriptive. Hypothecation is basically putting up collateral for a loan. You might hear that and say, okay, big whoop-de-doo, I can take my big screen TV and go down to the pawn shop at any time, get a loan. And yeah, that's probably true. Hypothecation isn't something that only property can do. Many things can be hypothecated. A common hypothecation item is a car, right? So people go out and buy a fancy car and get a loan on it, right? So the process of buying a car, two things happen at the same time, usually, unless you're paying straight up cash for it. You are both buying the car at the same time. You own that car, and then at the very same time, the bank is giving you a loan against the car you own, and you're using that loan to pay the previous owner, usually the dealership, for that car, right? And so that's the concept of hypothecation in action on something like a car, right? So what is it about property that I like so much compared to things like a car? I like to imagine it a little bit like this. Let's say tomorrow I win the lottery. Okay, not the big lottery, but let's just say I win $1 million. Okay, so now I've got $1 million in my hand. I could choose to spend it on something, right? What am I gonna buy? Well, I could go ahead and buy luxury items. Okay, I could have a trip to somewhere. I could buy some nice clothing, jewelry, go out for drinks, buy myself some nice clothing, have a travel, right? That's what we call consumption. That's one way of spending your money. And not all consumption is bad. I mean, look, it's a matter of values. It's a matter of what kind of a life you want to lead. I consume very little. That's just how I am. But, when you want to have a good time, you got to go out and spend some money. The problem with consumption is that when you want that money back, nothing you can do. Money's been spent, right? I can't bring my memory down to the pawn shop. Can't give that to anybody. Can't sell it. Can't do nothing with it. So memories are great, but you can't borrow against them. Okay. So another thing, maybe a more wise or prudent thing to do with your money, would be to purchase assets, collateral assets, things like precious metals, stones, maybe even stocks or a 401k, right? Those are great things to own. I have no problem with buying stocks, no problem with buying precious metals, having a store of value. Basically, if you've got money and you don't want to consume it, excessive consumption, you have no better use for it, I think that's a great idea. The problem with stocks and gold is if you want your money back, let's say you buy $10,000 worth of stock, okay, great idea, or your 401k. Now let's say you want that $10,000 back, all right? Well, you go to the bank and you say, hey bank, I've got $10,000 worth of stock. Can you please give me $10,000? They might be willing to give you what's called a secured loan, maybe, if it's the right bank. The interest rates aren't going to be great, and the terms aren't going to be great. It's going to be probably 10 years if you're lucky, probably less. Usually it's going to be not a great situation, and you try walking in there with $10,000 worth of gold. they'll say, hey, we've got a deposit box, you can put that in. But usually what you're looking at is surrendering the asset. So you don't get to keep the gold, you don't get to hold the gold, you got to give it to them. And again, those rates aren't so great. It turns out that if you want to take these types of assets and use them in a liquid way, liquid is kind of a fancy way of saying as cash. It's more nuance to it than that. But if you want cash for these assets, generally what you're going to have to do is sell them, right? You can't hold on to them and have the cash at them at the same time, okay? And this is where real estate really comes into its own. And this is why I say to people all the time about real estate. Yeah, I mean, people try to get it as an investment. And yeah, sure, it's a good investment, okay? It has a lot of what you call shoe leather costs, getting in, getting out. I love property. I love property more than anything in the world, and it does increase in value over time, all right? But I want to day trade it. I want to day trade in properties. Getting in, getting out, the volatility, short-term. Property is a fantastic, amazing long-term investment. If you want to day trade, maybe stick to these stocks. Okay, if you want something where you're going to get in and get out real quick. Okay, but property is very special because I've got my money, okay? And then I take it and I go buy a house. Let's say I win that $1 million and I buy $1 million property. Okay, now I can take that house, turn around, go to the bank and say, hey bank, here's the house, give me $1 million. And then the bank will turn around and they'll say, sure, no problem. Here's the $1 million back. Also, here's the house. Okay, you get to keep the house and they give you the money back and they ask you for a monthly payment, okay? And that's the rub, okay? Nothing's for free, but it is special. It's very special because if you take a look at what a $1 million mortgage is going to look like, you're talking maybe $6,500 a month. Now that's a lot of money. However, that's going to take you 12 years to make $1 million payment, which is unique, okay? Again, I'm not saying put all your eggs in the property basket. I'm saying that property has this ability to hypothecate, which makes it special. That the mortgage rates are such, and the way that it appreciates in value and the generation of equity is singular in property. Now, something you can do this with, a normal person can do this with, stocks, probably not, it's what you call margin accounts. So you're not gonna be able to do that with stocks, not gonna be able to do it with gold. You can do it with like a car. The problem with a car is that cars are what you call a depreciating value. They go down, not up in value over time. And you might be able to do it with farm equipment. Now there's something, you're a farmer, you're $1 million farmer or whatever. I don't know the specifics on being a farmer. Right? So maybe I love property so much, I might want to buy a farm eventually. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. But for a regular, average, normal person, nothing is like property. You can own it. Okay, you have possession and ownership of it. You can use it, okay? You can hold on to it and use it, live in it, sleep in it, rent it out, make use of the property. And in addition, while maintaining usage without giving up ownership, you can borrow against it. That's called hypothecation, and nothing compares to property, at least for the average person. Okay, and so again, am I against? Do I hate stocks? Do I hate 401ks? No. Okay, they're great investment vehicles. You can probably, with compounding interest, and if you get the right investment, you know what you're doing, probably make a lot more money in day trading, doing stocks and investments and things like that. Okay, that's fine. But if you have use for a property, okay, if you need to sleep somewhere, if you're fairly handy and don't mind dealing with renters, you choose your level of involvement here. But everybody needs somewhere to keep their stuff, right? So what I would say is renting is great if you're going to be just for a few years. You don't know where you're going to be. You don't want to lay down roots anywhere because, like I say, it's expensive kind of to get in and out of real estate. You don't want to be buying and selling a house every other month, every other year, right? So that I can understand renting for short term, right? I don't, every time I go to Minneapolis, I don't buy a condo. I just rent a hotel for a couple days, right? And if I'm only going to be in town for maybe a year or two, I don't know, I don't need to buy a house. I can rent one. That's fine. But if you can get use out of it, I don't understand why you wouldn't buy, why you wouldn't own. Because something I hear a lot from people is, well, I don't want to have to deal with the maintenance. Well, first off, there's a ton of different properties out there that you can own that they have HOAs where the maintenance is built right in. Okay, so if you're worried about maintenance, if it's too hard for you to pick up the phone and call your own plumber and your own electrician to come in and fix things, you would rather have one property manager to call. I promise you, there are people who will be willing to both let you own a property and make those phone calls for you. Okay, property managers are making money off of the renting. Okay, you're not saving money on maintenance by not owning a house. I'm sorry, it's not like all these people who own rentals are just losing money on all the maintenance costs. That's not how it works. And it's not that all those apartment buildings you're looking at are just owned by a bunch of maintenance people, right? They're owned by investors who, call the maintenance people when they need maintenance done, the same as you can do, okay? So if you can get use out of it, all right, and you can own it, if the government regulations don't have you so tied up from other debts and other red tape paperwork, why wouldn't you want something that you can borrow against, that you can have that equity, that you can over time resell and have part of your retirement, or you can trade up on your homes? Property is just so amazing. And because of that special thing called hypothecation, you can have your cake and eat it. Okay, there's the old phrase, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? Well, with property, you can have your house and borrow against it too. That is the word hypothecation. It's my favorite word. It's my favorite concept. I'll probably do many more of these detailing them, or I'll probably just bring it up a whole bunch because, man, do I love property. That's my favorite thing about property is the ability to own it, use it, and borrow against it. Hypothecation. Thanks so much for watching.